country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell it. Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell it.
Okay, firstly, I gotta address apologetics. It doesn't make sense, I'm not sorry, I don't get it. The fact that he was crucified means that we're all indebted. We should demand to have a culture that doesn't soon forget it. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess it. Christ is king, listen up, get the message. The time is short, the deception is impressive. The church itself is corrupted and wretched. They preach about grace, no righteousness expected. God gaze at the Pope because their sin is accepted. The devil calls, they don't even try to reject it. They're employed by Satan, they are tax exempted.
Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell it. Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell
It's
it.
neither land of the free, nor is it home of the brave. When you got people here killing babies every day, and all the Christians here think that they can get away if they throw a couple bucks into the bucket on Sunday. But I don't think that that's the way it works. He said to seek the kingdom and its righteousness first. But you wanna grab a handbag, a Rolex, and what's worse, you think that you deserve it, but the bubble's about to burst. It's time to rise, sell the cloak for a weapon. Got the sword in my left, in the right, Smith & Wesson. And I don't think it's wise for you to try to be testing. If you become a Goliath, then I'ma teach you a lesson. It's apostasy, and what the cost will be is the people in the church and state accosting me. But I'm speaking honestly, you are not the boss of me, because I only give allegiance to the one true king. And I don't care if we burn down this whole country, cause it's wretched and rusty and rotten, stupid and ugly. And I got no love for churches and preachers set up above me, cause their democracy's about to be replaced with monarchy.
Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't tryna sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's
What
the way it is, like it is
is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, level 72, made possible by the cult of Con. That's you guys. I'm Con Man, and thank you for being here. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to have you all here for another level of the Main Character Podcast, level 72. And this time we are back for part 2 of the Time Traveler episode from last week, and we've got all kinds of stuff to talk about. But before we get to that, let's start off by saying hi to everybody. It is Wednesday, it is Hump Day, it is Trash Day, and as you guys know, it's the Main Character Podcast, right? Let's go. All right, we're going to stop by the old party bus here and see if we can say hi to everybody. I see lots of good stuff going on. I see Awooga right here. We got the classic Awooga. Let's go. Oh, cool. A little bit of a delayed reaction there, and I'm not sure what that was all about, but whatever. What's up, guys? It's good to see you. I see we got like everybody in here. I'll roll it back a little bit, and we'll kind of try to start at the top. Let's like all the regulars. For sure. We've obviously got Wendy, Spirit and Truth Wendy. She is the captain of the Big Blimpin' Party Blimp. One more for the record. Guys, it has been such a strange day. Definitely like a weird energy in the air. Maybe it's been that way for you, maybe not. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you're having a good week so far. We've also got the Eyes for Truth, Aaron, my friend. It's good to have you. Welcome in. We've also got Precision Rifleman Garrett. Good to see you, Garrett. It doesn't say Garrett anymore, but I know. I remember these things. We've got Mama Khan. Good to see you, Mama Khan. Welcome, as always. And, Doctor Who, another one of our moderators in the chat. Doctor Who, my friend. He says, in the thumbnail, Khan needs one of those lightning arcs overlaid on the forehead, bulging vein throb. That would be funny, actually. Like, right as I'm like, like full tilt. The Pugmaster 56, honk honk, good to see ya. You know, everybody's usernames changed since everybody started having to use the little @ handles. I mentioned this the last few times, and some of you guys might have changed, so if I don't recognize you because of the new names, I apologize. But thank you, of course, for being here. I have made a couple of categorical errors prior to starting the stream. One of them is that I forgot to actually open the Patreon subscriber little thumbnail thing that I usually switch over to. But that's okay because I do have it saved over here on a Google tab. So let me just jump over there really quick and give a special shout out to all of our wonderful supporters over there on patreon.com/thecultofcon. I'm not sure why this is all. As you can see, things are a little out of whack. I was trying to work my way into, switching to the new computer, and I didn't succeed. So if that tells you anything, either I'm technologically inept or I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. So the new computer's here, but I have not switched over to it yet. So this is me, like, I unplugged everything and took it all apart and was like getting rid of everything. Then I'm like, oh no, I have to go back. I'm not ready. So I've thrown this back together, but thank you guys so much for all the support you guys have given to the channel through either the Patreon network or like the PayPal if you donated that way. And then otherwise, just thanks for watching this show, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on Wednesday night. It makes it fun. Somebody always messages me and reminds me to take out the trash because I religiously forget to take out the trash. So it's really important. I know how to take it outside, okay, but I just forget to take the can to the street. So somebody will get me. I know it. I see that we have Pearl in the house. Good to see you, Pearl. Pearl's throwing up the awooga, so we'll go ahead and hit one of those. If there was somebody who was new here, I don't know. Maybe somebody new comes. I get the feeling like we don't get recommended much. But if you're brand new, the basic principle is that we have a party bus and everyone on it is drinking Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid makes you a little crazy, but we're all having a good time doing that. And at some point, the party bus got so full of Kool-Aid chugging weirdos that we had to get like a blimp. So we upgraded to Big Blimpin', and Big Blimpin' is... Anyway, we got Amelia Petrella. Welcome in. It's great to have you. We've also got ex-heliocentric, my friend. Sam Parker Fox, good to see you. And we also have Adrienne Petrokovitz. I think Sammy's actually going to be cutting my hair tomorrow. That's the plan. I'm overdue for sure. And that's my fault because I don't follow through on anything. We've also got Wayne Bailey. Welcome in, my friend. Let's see. I'll make sure we get everybody here. Half truths for CDM. I love that. For CDM. Like whatever we do is just like, it's for CDM. Good to see you, brother. I'm glad you could make it tonight. We've also got Chris T, my friend. He's like, oh snap, forgot it was Wednesday. Time is flying, right? 2026 is right around the corner. And since we're talking about time and time travel, I thought it was relevant to bring up the fact that it really does feel like time is going faster, right? We talk about this all the time, the quickening, the idea that time is actually getting shorter, and perhaps that's true. I'm not exactly the subject matter expert, but what I can tell you is that the older you get, the smaller a portion of your total life, a day or a year or a month becomes, right? The older you get. I remember being like 6 years old, 8, whatever, 12, whatever. When you were a kid, it seemed like summer lasted forever. I remember it being like, you're about to start school, and it's like, well, I don't even know what school is. I've lived hundreds of lives in the amount of time that this summer break is gone. And now I'm going back to school. I'm like, who are these people? What is this construct? Yeah, but now it's like summer was like, I was at work and then I got paid. I feel like I only got one paycheck. Summer was just over. Now it's like raining outside. Oh man, and it's raining a lot. You know, I have to say, my workplace is suffering from the burden of being in this Pacific Northwest rainforest. It just poured rain for like 2 full days straight, and the roof was leaking everywhere, and there's like all kinds of like potential water damage. And being that I'm the maintenance guy, I'm like, it's in a sense, you know, a little above my head, no pun intended. But it's literally like, I can't really do anything about it. I'm not really paid to go up on the roof or anything. I know we'll get it sorted out, but man, it's been stressful over there. I've been worried about the place. As a guy who takes a lot of pride in what he does, you know, I always say that we don't have jobs because we need jobs. We have jobs because the Lord knows those jobs need us. And so in this case, they definitely need me, but I can't save them from this one. And so it's kind of disappointing, you know, when you really feel invested in a place and it's like, there's just nothing I can do right now. And I totally, like, I'm feeling that today. Today was just a day that kind of just took the life out of me. I was just like, man, I'm just feeling sad. Water's coming through the wall because it's flooding outside. And it's just, it's a product of, the degeneration of the world, the rust and the decay and the erosion is all part of a world that's, dying and that needs restoration constantly. And I'm all about restoration. That's like my main motivation in life. I never thought about that, but it's totally what I care about more than anything. I want to see the world made new again, made whole again. And whenever it's not doing that or it's going the other direction, it really bothers me. Like, for instance, I've been working on this car. Actually, I'll take a chance to show you guys real quick this beautiful car that I got a couple of months back, and it's been my dream car. And I know you guys know about it, but I thought I'd share it with you today because why not? It's the main character show. Okay, so here in this envelope, check this baby out. This is parked outside the old workplace here. Gas station. Gorgeous. I mean, isn't that just an incredible car? I was in the SL group earlier today, R129SL, and they were saying, like, is there such a thing as an angle this car doesn't look good from? Like, this car just looks great no matter how you hash it. Absolutely outstanding. Anyway, as you can see, I'm fully in love with this thing. I know it's just a machine, but I have spent so much time and energy trying to get this thing operational again. When I got it, it was absolutely destitute. I should have put a photo in. I was going through my phone data because I cleaned them all out and backed up everything. There's a photo from when it came off the truck when it got here, and it was like, it looks horrible. Like, it was beat to heck. And of course, it had all kinds of mechanical problems. I've been doing a ton of work. It's not like I got, a garage baby on my hands, but I've been working really hard to bring her back to life. And this last, 2 weekends, I worked so hard, worked my butt off trying to get this car working again, and I still haven't fixed it. For some reason, when you drive down the road, it just makes this squealing sound. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I know it's going to be like, oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Trust me, anything you can imagine, I've already tried and thought about it. It doesn't seem to affect the car. It drives beautifully, comes to a stop beautifully, steers, stops, everything. It does everything beautifully. It even runs great, sounds good, starts right up, shifts beautifully. There's just something down there, something in there that's like, squeak, and it's just the most annoying thing in the world. Like, I have to think there's a small mouse that just is grabbing onto the undercarriage, and as I'm driving, he's just screaming. Anyway, spent 2 weeks on this portion. We're took out the whole drive line and changed out all these crazy parts. It's part of the video that's still being made, that's not made yet, for the cult of cars for Patreon. But yeah, it's a process for sure. But again, I really, really love this machine, and she's just such a beauty. That's Bam-A-Lam, and we're working on it. I got to get a little bit more ahead financially before I can afford custom plates for it. But I do want to get the plate to say Bam-A-Lam because there's just the right number of characters, and you can do letters or numbers. So it'd be Bam-A-Lam. Hope that works out. We'll see. But popping back into chat, make sure I caught up with everybody. That gives us probably enough time for everybody to get here, right? Oh, yep, it did that thing. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody, but okay. We got Chanel Roomsburg. Welcome in. It's good to have you. We've also got Linda 51464, or just Linda for short. I think we're almost there. We got David Salvatore. And we also got Hawkma, my good friend. Yeah. Okay. Okay, dialing back on the Kool-Aid there, David. That's hilarious. He's always very emotive. I love that. I love how everyone has their own flavor and flair. It helps me to appreciate the diversity of our community, even though we all believe in Jesus, right? We all believe Jesus is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He is alive today. He is King today. He is the way, the truth, and the life. You can't have the truth without the way, the truth, and the life. That is Jesus. That's what we're all really about here at the end of the day, even though I might not be super churchy. I'm a little rough around the edges, but that's one thing we all have in common. But it's good to see that everybody has their own thing. Chanel says, I had a car that did that. We called it the Whistler. Yeah, Bam-A-Lam, the Whistler. If I talked to one mechanic about it. He's a suspension guy. We drove around in it one time and talked about it, and we kind of listened, and he heard it, and he was like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know, man, because they looked at the wheel bearings. They're all fine, and it's not what you would think it is. And so even he was like, well, you know, man, if you don't know, if nothing's broken, like, you're not gonna be able to find out. Like, you can't just keep replacing everything. I mean, technically I can. There's still a lot of stuff I haven't done, and my goal is to like really replace everything until it's really good, because I want to keep the car forever. But I think that's funny, the Whistler. It tells me I'm not alone in this. Like that other people have random vehicles that just scream while they're driving down the road, and it's like, you want to feel cool so bad. It's the Lord's way of humbling me. I'm driving around in that absolutely sick car. Like, let's just talk. Let's look at it one more time. Absolutely sick. And you like pull up next to somebody at the stoplight. You come squealing to a halt. You're like, ski. Pull up to a stop. It's like, you're like, yeah, baby. You're trying to look cool, and then you take off. Squeak. It's the story of my life. Like, that's what it means to be a main character. Other people are driving around perfectly smoothly, and you are screaming. You're screeching while driving down the road. Oh, you're driving through a neighborhood at night. You don't want to make a scene. Your car comes screeching into the neighborhood. Iconic. At least it doesn't have a loud exhaust. It's very tame for now. Good to see you, Jasper Jaguar. Welcome in. I think we're almost like caught up. Like, I gotta get here. We got crispy chickens. Good to see you, my friend. And 5022 Freedom. Welcome back, brother. All right. I can assume that we're caught up. We're gonna slam this down here. And guys, it's like part 2 because we had too much going on last week, and I have even more this week. It's like I should have just left it alone. I like digging deep this time. So I do have my my notes here. I was gonna show you guys the thumbnail, like specifically. I guess I can. It's on this other tab that I opened up, right? Yeah. We're doing this the old-fashioned way. All right. Time Traveler 2. Yeah. So we're just picking up where we left off last week, talking about time travel and some of the crazy, like the fabric of the universe and like the spiritual framework, and how that whole, spiritual reality is kind of like fractalized into every fiber of the existence of the world. We see like, everything from like the human Venus or neurological system, and how that correlates with like lightning and the patterns like Lichtenberg figures and stuff. We're talking about like, just how the universe itself is like a microcosm of the big picture, like tons of tiny little reverberations, like when God spoke the world into existence and everything was like, is that how it was? Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how it went. Okay. But I wanted to open tonight just kind of going back a little bit, kind of take a step back, because, last episode we talked about so much like cutting edge stuff, the things that are going on today, and these pressing concepts about like field tech, and we will talk more about that tonight. But I just felt like it was worth going back a little bit and kind of thinking about where we came from a little bit. And I remember I was talking about this earlier, like the beginning of this era of conspiracy theory research, because obviously people have been asking questions for centuries. When anything weird happened, people were always writing up their strange theories about how he certainly was possessed by the ghost of his ancestor. And then they're like, the only option is bloodletting. Like people, they came up with ideas that weren't necessarily right. It's not a new thing, but at the same time, look, when the official narrative is something crazy like that, right? Oh, it's not the conspiracy theorists who told you something crazy. It was instead the people who told you that, like, oh yeah, jet fuel, yeah, that melts steel beams all day, bro. And you're like, no, that's no different than he's possessed by the spirit of his ancestor. Boil him in lye. Like, what? When people start recommending insane stuff, I don't care who it is. I'm like equally unsure. It doesn't matter if it's the official narrative or somebody like me on the internet. Like, if it's weird, it's weird. But anyway, we've been talking about this forever. I've been in the game for a while, I guess you could say, because I've been kind of a social pariah for a long time. Back in like, what year was it? 2012. I got like headbutted in the face by this guy. It was this battle of the bands. It's like a long story, okay? But like when you get like a traumatic head injury and like and it's the result of like an unprovoked attack. It like changes your whole view on the world, right? And I became a much more shut in, like quiet person. And I think that even a lot of people like are surprised when they see me like on the show, like just and then they like meet me in real life, and I'm actually pretty quiet a lot of the time, and I keep to myself a lot. And it's because, you know, I've kind of had to gauge how much I could really be me because of how dangerous people are, you know. From on one hand, you know, if you have that ability to like get the party going and like get everyone's attention, it can be a good thing. But when you believe in stuff that's so divisive and powerful, and that's what you use that tool for, it makes people really hate you. You know, and I've found that people like get really mad. You didn't even say anything that offensive. Like I wasn't even trying to make anybody mad, and they got super mad. And I've just realized over time you got to be careful. Like, and so I've kind of developed a bit of a shut in, like wizard in a tower type mentality about the world, and I feel bad for it because I love socializing. It's like my favorite thing. And over the years, I've been kind of a shut-in. I like don't answer the texts. I just don't even look. You know, I like the worst at replying to text or email. And it's not because I don't like people or that people don't have a priority in my life. I just have a hard time training myself to go back into the black mirror and want to be on it and want to be. And you know, correspondence is important. It's that day and age and everything. I should be better at it. But I think sometimes people think I'm too good for them. But it's really just like I don't have the energy. If I look and read a text message, then I have to come up with the response. And then, not that should be so complicated, but I'm pretty crazy. So there's that. And that's a little bit off from my train of thought, but let's just say I've been in conspiracy game for a long time because of that, right? Like I was a pariah before it was cool. I guess you could say that. But yeah, so I remember the golden days of conspiracy research back when we would like look up like, oh, it's like 9/11 or JFK or whatever other keyword, you know, it's MK Ultra, you know. It's not to say that those are outdated or anything, but just that's where it started questioning stuff like, you know, like JFK assassination or whatever, you know, was that really a plane that hit the Pentagon or what, you know. And that kind of community was small back in the day, you know, like you could be on BitChute. Someone will be talking about like adrenochrome or something, and you're on BitChute in the comment section. There's like 3 comments on the video, 279 views. It's like the only video about it. Like it's 2013 or whatever, you know. So over the years, I've been through this for a long time, and you see how things have changed over the years. And I think there was a time, even up until recently, like maybe even 2020, where the discovery period was really cool. Like we were like uncovering the secrets, and it was really fun and exciting. And there was something really reeling and fun about being a conspiracy theorist because you were getting to the bottom of everything. But I think 2020 and beyond, we kind of hit this threshold where it was like, man, this isn't fun anymore because it's real. Like all of a sudden it gets scary because the truth hurts, you know? And it goes from being like, I wonder what they're doing next, and we're all collaborating like it's like a movie where there's like a good guy squad, and we're all those people trying to get to the bottom, working together hand in hand. And then at some point it gets real, right? Like somebody dies, or like I mean that theoretically, but also like look, you know, like Bill Cooper dead, or like any of these people, like they burned all those people alive at Waco. Like when something like that happens, and all of a sudden it takes this conspiracy theory world and it makes it like, oh, it's really dark. Like 2020, man, that was a rough time. And tonight we're going to talk about stuff that I'm probably not supposed to talk about, but I don't care because I have to say it. And that's more of the same thing. It's like that we, to this day, live in fear of saying the wrong thing because they'll terminate everything you worked for. Like that's scary, those realities. I think I've realized sometime in the not too distant past that I'm a little bit much because I say the truth as it is, and the truth is horrible, man. It sucks. Like everything from like Epstein to like Federal Reserve or whatever, man. It's a bad situation and we call it like it is. It sounds negative. So I understand, because in the golden age of conspiracy research, it was exciting. It was like watching a movie no one else had ever seen. We were all figuring things out, asking questions nobody asked. We were literally on the cutting edge, all of us, everybody, at any time between like 2012, even when they were like first figuring out that the earth was not a ball flying through space. At least not that it was the first person ever. Like who gets credit? I don't know. I don't take credit for anything. I just think that we collectively started to shift the Overton window of understanding from being complete sheep compliant to more and more people asking questions. And it's been good in many ways, right? We've all learned a lot, and we have networks now, like people on TikTok with thousands of subscribers sharing these details and these crazy things. And it's been good for us in that way. But ever since conspiracies became kind of popular, it became more about trying to chase the dragon and have a good time. And I get that. I desire to have a good time too in life. But truthism, or whatever you want to call it, like the addiction to knowledge and wisdom and like having to know, like it's not good enough to just be told something. I need to know that what you told me was real. It's not that I don't like you or trust you. I can't trust anyone. I don't even trust my own eyes. I've seen things, you know? It's like, what did you see? Was that actually a banshee screaming outside the house at 3 a.m? Or are you crazy? You know? So you just have this, maybe I am not the only one who has this desire to really know the truth and have it. And so for me, that's really what I care about, even if it's unpleasant. And I think sometimes that's kind of what I offer, is an unpleasant cold water bucket where it's like, oh man, that's rough. But that's fine. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with being the cold water bucket guy. We always gotta get the cold water bucket at least once in a while. But anyway, I've seen things change over the years, and like I said, things have changed, and it's not a bad thing that people are more and more questioning the state of the world. Like, you know, from the last decade or so many things have happened that have really woken people up. And I think, like I said, it's really good that the Overton window has moved and that people have started to like really question the world and everything in it. But the issue that I have is that unfortunately people are still drawn to that desire to be comfortable and have a good time during the ride. And I understand that fully. Like, I spent most of my life trying to have a good time instead of having to go to work, or trying to have a good time instead of like being a good son or a good boyfriend or whatever. I've had so many chances in my life to rise, and I failed because I was selfish and lost in darkness. Now that I see the world differently, it's like it's more of an understanding that's like life is not about having a good time or being comfortable on the ride. Because we're looking for what lies ahead of this time, the future, destination, kingdom, we call it. Because I understand now that my purpose is not to live out a life of good fun here in the world. So I'm okay with facing the harsh truths, because it's like, dude, there's so much fun planned in the end for everybody in the kingdom, and with everything, the many mansions in our Father's house. Like, and that's what I look forward to for having a good time. And I know we can have a good time along the way, right? Party bus, you know, but I'm always going to be the guy that keeps it real. I'll be the first to tell you, oh, I was wrong about that one, you know, because it's like whatever it is, Q or Trump or whatever other thing I bought into. We're all just people. We all make mistakes. And even in today's age, we see a lot of people falling for stuff today that's not really that well orchestrated. You know, some of the delusions of today are kind of a reach, but I get it. You know, it's one of the most trying times, I think, in many, many years of human history. And so people are kind of coping in their own way. Some people are like a truth addict and trying desperately to figure it out, and other people are effectively trying to find a free ride or a good time to hash through all this, you know. And I get it. I totally do. I can just say I understand and I empathize, and I just want to be the guy who seeks the truth and stays the course. And I think that even in the not too distant past, I've kind of worried, like, well, I want to give people something they can appreciate. I want it to be fun. You know, I want to have a good time. Like, and I find myself trying to curate the situation. And I've just realized in life, you can only just be true to yourself. And you got to hope that the person that you are is good, you know? And if it's not, you have to build it, right? We talk about this 3-part system for kingdom living: trust God, take the risk, do the work. So when that applies to your life, it changes things. You know, and you find that. You find some people don't stick around, some people don't like you, you're not churchy enough or whatever, and they're going to go try and find somebody that they think is. But the reality is that we're all just blindly feeling around in the dark, and a lot of people's suggestions for what's really going on are completely outlandish, and we're just going to have to deal with the fact that that's what's going on right now, because it is a time of obscurity. And so, for me, I like to take advantage of the thing too, and speculate as well. So that's sometimes what we do here on this show, is I speculate wildly about things that I have no idea about. And picking up on where we left off last week, there'll be some of that tonight. But since everything has kind of shifted, right, the Overton window, I said, about thought, about conspiracy theories, and like, you know, asking questions we shouldn't ask, and like making content like that. You used to be seen as like a loser. There was like a wine press where you knew that nobody was going to like you if you made conspiracy videos, so you really had to fall on the sword of your convictions. And now there's just no proving ground anymore. Anybody can start a TikTok and be like, did you know that JFK was actually an interdimensional alien from the planet Nimura or whatever? Like, and then so what ends up happening is some people are just going to believe that, and that's how it is. So that's part of it. But so it's become so socialized now to be conspiracy theorists and seeking the truth, or at least riding on the coattails of somebody's theory, whether it's real or not. And everybody's doing that these days. And I think that's cause for concern. Like, we should be concerned about that. We should be worried about the stuff that's going on right in front of our faces. And in recent weeks, since we're talking about reflecting on time and everything, let's travel back a few episodes. I talked about this whole, what do you want to call it? Man, my thing seems frozen. So am I cut off? Well, I think it came back. It's claiming it came back. See what happens when you talk about I didn't even do anything. All right, time traveling back without the problems here. Hopefully we can continue. So because the Overton window has shifted, that's what I was saying. The mainstream is now tuned in. So conspiracies have gone mainstream, let's just say that, and we've been seeing a lot of this. So ever since conspiracy theories became mainstream, Masonic theater took center stage. And a couple of weeks ago, I brought this up on my channel. This guy, Nick Fuentes, you guys have seen him, heard him. He's obviously traveling around doing the podcast circuit. He's getting way more attention than any normal person gets. And you could say for a few different reasons, but you guys, we know, we've seen this all before. We know the playbook. And the other day I saw on Twitter, there was this exchange going on where, the late Charlie Kirk and and Candace Owens talking about that, and really like her last couple of months have just been all about the mystery of Charlie Kirk, and it's a very elegant, I don't know if you want to call it a distraction, because whether it's true or false, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of energy going into it, and a lot of people are still digging on that, and that's okay. But what's more interesting to me is the fact that somebody like Tim Pool, for instance, comes out defending the legacy of Charlie Kirk, I suppose, or of his peers, or of Israel. I'm not really sure what he's protecting, to be honest. But Tim Pool comes out swinging on Candace Owens, right? And Candace Owens being the big detractor and saying Israel killed Charlie Kirk, basically. She stands to be kind of a divisive character. And so Tim Pool's like, Candace Owens is the divisive character. And you can see all this happening on Twitter. It's just drama of our age. But the point I'm trying to make is that then Nick Fuentes sides with Tim Pool, which is like the okay, no, Israel's not behind everything. There's just such a lack of consistency in these characters, where it's like, oh yeah, Candace Owens is she's just trying to divide the Republicans, and Tim Pool's like now some sort of a conservative after all the Trump era. He magically changed his mind. And then Nick Fuentes, who's like, as far as I know, never had a job. Like, he's just been a political commentator since he was like out of high school. Like, he's just been, and it's okay. He just started early. I'm not judging him for that. I feel like my real conclusion is that all of this is just a bunch of drama and a bunch of crap. It's like, it's as fake as anything else. Like, and that's me saying that. And I'm usually the guy like, oh no, hold on. Let's wait until we know the facts. But I'm just like, here's what really gets me. So Candace Owens this is a nuke episode tonight. Obviously, I already got some connectivity problems from me talking about stuff I'm not supposed to talk about. Pugmaster says, Nick Fuentes is a gay fed. Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyway, Candace Owens is like the first person, like one of the main people that got called out for being a transgender entity of the cult. Because you guys know, like, that's their whole thing. Baphomet and the whole Adam Kadmon, like, they worship the transgender. That's part of, like, Satanism. They believe that mankind not separated from man and female, or male and female. Like, they're like the original Adam, this Adam Kadmon, he was both genders. And they really worship that concept. So it's big to have high priests of their order who are transgenders. And that Candace Owens was accused of being that person, right? And the PR campaign to protect Candace Owens was immediately pregnant. So she certainly had to be a woman because she's now pregnant. Just like the Barack Obama and Big Mike Obama and their two beautiful children that look exactly like Martin Nesbitt and Anita Blanchard. Feel free to look them up. And it's actually so funny. Maybe I can just pull that up now because, like, Martin Nesbitt, Anita Blanchard, true Obama parents. Of course, they're going to say, let's just see if there's an image that shows it. That's all you need. I don't care what the AI started to say something over here. Look, it started to be like, the claim that Martin Nesbitt and Anita Blanchard are the true parents of Malia and Sasha Obama is a thoroughly debunked conspiracy theory. And then you, like, pull up the photo, and it's like, dude, which one's the mom and which one's the dad? Oh, come on. I don't need a dang Twitter link. Oh, yes, I do, apparently. Okay, so this is Barack and this is Michelle. This lady looks just like this chick. This guy looks just like this chick. It's a case closed. Like, if you had to pick which one is the father of this girl, right? Of this person right here. Which one? Dong, dong, dong. It's like, who wants to be a millionaire? And then you got Big Mike, who looks like Mike Tyson during the glory days. And then there's this lady, which these aren't even the best images. I've seen better. That's how the internet really gets you. It's not that they erase the history completely. They give you, like, a less fulfilling example so that you spend the rest of your day looking for one where it's like, is this them posed together in a photo? Oh, okay. It's not. It's just been edited, but it's edited enough that, like, even though it's potato, false is in the corner. That's legendary. I'm getting off topic, dude. I'm sorry. I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that ADD rabbit hole. Here, let's go back over here. The point I'm trying to make is just that it's big within their culture. The elites, the rulers, as I think some people wanted to start calling them. Not that they're legitimately ruling, they just have everyone convinced they are, so we just do what they say. But anyway, so the bottom line, Candace Owens was accused of being a man. The result was to immediately become pregnant. Oh, there's no way it's a man because it's pregnant. And then immediately after that, starts accusing another more obvious tranny of being a tranny. What's his name? The husband of Macron, of Macaroon. Anyway, that's how you prove that you're not trans, is by obviously having a pregnancy. Oh, I'm clearly female. And then after you're pregnant, you start accusing other people of being transgender. It's legendary. It's like we're watching the deconstruction, like, in real time. We just need to keep pushing. Everyone on the internet, keep pushing. Just keep posting Stars of David on everything that you see. Just keep doing it because they have to react, and then it falls apart. So Candace Owens, check mark on some kind of Mason and Chill, hand gestures and everything else. Candace Owens cooked. Okay, Tim Pool, I actually can't really say that Tim Pool I know is guilty, but I know a lot of people who probably have more evidence than me. And this is, of course, just what the internet says. I hold no opinion about this, and I purport nothing to be true. This is just what the internet says. Anyway, Tim Pool, all I know is that he came out of nowhere in, like, 2008. He like flew a Zeppelin. Not really. It's an exaggerated story, but he basically, like, was the first one to get, like, drone photos or, like, you know, aerial perspective video and photos of the Occupy protests in, like, 2008. So this guy's been around a while, and he's just been building this media empire on YouTube, and he's got millions of subs, and he's been on major news networks many, many times. And, you know, he sells products. He's a multi-millionaire. And regardless of what you say about him as a person or as a character, he's effectively advanced the whole fence-sitting delusion that you can be, like, you know, 50-50 about things, where the reality is that we're incredibly torn apart by divisive realities that have to be faced like adults. And Tim Pool tries to propagate the idea that you can be a child about things and not pick sides, when the reality is it's good versus evil, and only fools are unaware of that. So anyway, Tim Pool's another one of those can kickers, I guess you could say. And I brought this up like last week or 2 weeks ago, where there was that one episode on his podcast where it was him and Alex Jones and the transgender influencer Blair White, and it was super weird. They're like in an RV in Tim's yard at his like new skate park house. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The world is crazy. You can't make this up. If you were to like feed all of this data to someone like 10 years ago, their head would explode, because it's like, dude, the movie Idiocracy couldn't even predict how crazy things have become. Like, I can't, it's a clown show. I hate to say it, but it's a clown show. So anyway, Tim Pool, I'm sorry, I can't trust him either. I think that what's happened is he had a tiny hat, and it's just stretched out to fit his big. Maybe he has a tiny pinhead, and it looks like he's normal sized on camera, but he's actually got a tiny pinhead, and his little tiny hat is actually a beanie because his head's so small. Or maybe the bigger your tiny hat is, the more evil you are. I don't know. But anyway, so Tim Pool, not too sure about that guy. But here's really what got me out of all three of our characters in the recent internet drama spat that's wasted way too much time tonight. Nick Fuentes himself, yeah, he says lots of things that are very nationalistic and in many cases very true, harsh truths, like the kind of shit that I would say on here if I didn't think it would make everyone hate me. But a lot of stuff's true, man. A lot of harsh truths that guy has spoken. But that doesn't make him like infallible. It doesn't mean he's perfect. And I never even tried to platform that Nick Fuentes is like the hero of our generation. Like, I feel like he's actually soft in some places. But really what got me this time was really, it takes me back, time travel back to Conspiracy 101 and those good old days when we were digging through and finding out where all this stems from. Where does all this begin? All this satanic worship and adrenochrome and human trafficking, and every conspiracy that there is comes from something. There's an evil organization propagating them all, right? It's the only way they happen. And so here's the final one, right? Nick Fuentes, I saw him on a podcast the other day, and this was not he was not being facetious. He was being serious, and he said that the only true Christians are Catholics. And he was based, because he's a Catholic, pronounced Catholic. He openly identifies as a Catholic. And he says that anyone's not Catholic it's not a real Christian. And I'm like, there it is. That's what I've been waiting for, okay? He's not a shill for Israel, like somebody like Tim Pool. And he's not a shill for like, whatever Candace Owens is a shill for. I don't know what. Distraction Inc. I don't know. But Nick Fuentes is a shill for Catholicism. And that's really all you need to know. Like, Catholicism is unpalatable. I mean, I could go off on a giant rant about how horrible Catholicism is, but let's just put it as people who understand where we are in history know that the Catholicism religion didn't exist until after the millennial reign of Christ. They stole the identity of real Christianity, and they used a sigil that is the celebration of Jesus' death. That's the logo they use to go around and seize control of the world in the post-millennial reign, and to rewrite history, and to draw up all kinds of fake maps about what the world looks like, and to tell all kinds of fairy tales about what they found in the faraway reaches of the world, true or fake, and to basically rewrite everything after the millennial reign, claiming themselves to be the arbiters of where these great saints come from and the history of the church, and they're the true church since Peter himself and all this. And I need to make the point to say that for those who are really educated on this stuff, no, Catholicism didn't even exist until a couple years ago, like a couple hundred years ago in true history. And so they claim to have been around forever. That's just the way they legitimize their fallacy in the post-millennial kingdom world. But even in secular, regular world, like Jesus Christ never arranged for a pope. He never arranged for the worship of his mother. He never arranged for any of the weird eating his flesh and drinking his blood like cannibal ritual Eucharist stuff. It's all weird and cult-like. And ultimately, Christ did not preach the cross. His purpose in life was not the cross. Christ preached the kingdom. And the reason he died on the cross was to atone for the sins of man so that they may be born again and enter the kingdom. It has nothing to do with the cross being his end game. His ultimate goal was life, everlasting life, and kingdom. So if you want a sigil or a symbol for your church, it should be a crown, it should be a star, it should be something that indicates that this guy is king and that he's alive today, and we don't need a pope because he is the arbiter between Abba and ourselves. Jesus Christ is the true pope. Anyway, that Catholic thing about got me. I was like typing up a huge rant, and I was like, no one's going to read this. No one cares. But it's literally conspiracy 101, right? Time travel back to the old days and remember that all of this started with the Vatican and their Jesuits covering up history and erasing everything. And then they used London, the United Kingdom, or what they called England back then, to go around militarizing and destroying all of these places. And then they passed the buck over to the United States after the development of the whole London and then the OSS thing and then the United States and the CIA. And you can literally trace this through Conspiracy 101, how it begins with the Vatican, it becomes then London, and then it becomes the United States. And that is the current Five Eyes NATO beast system that runs the world today. That is the government military faction of the world. The Catholicism and deep state are exactly intermeshed. It is the exact same thing. So if there's somebody who's extremely successful and making all this time and energy all over the internet and everybody's listening to him and he says that we should all be Catholics, it tells you who's been backing him from the very beginning, who is responsible. Because I think to myself, he's been debanked for 10 years and he's a prolific racist on the internet, you know? Where was he working? Who hired him? How did he, where was he clocking in at for the last 10 years to pay his bills? Where did the money come from for him to eat sandwiches? Where is the toilet that he was shitting in? Where's the roof that kept the rain off his ass? I'm to the point where it's like, dude, I know what it's like to live and work. I know what it's like to be a human being. How can a guy who's a racist pariah, debanked from all banks, somehow simultaneously survive the last 10 years and become one of the biggest prolific influencers of the modern age? I'm not buying it. There were people talking about Hitler 20 years ago in a better way than him. And people remember them. You ever notice how none of the old people are around anymore? Where's the Hoax Busters channel? Those guys were talking about Holocaust stuff in 2008 on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spitballing. Maybe I'm just throwing out conjecture, but it just seems to me like, you know, maybe the world's a stage, and ever since conspiracy theories became popular, the Masonic theater has really become the main show on TV, and I think that's kind of what we're going through now. But anyway, let's go ahead and just take a little moment, a little refresher. Wendy says, don't be a victim of top chat. It's a good thing I'm not, because I can totally see myself doing that. Yeah, Amy says Candace is Catholic as well. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not against people that are Catholic. I'm just saying that the doctrine of Catholicism is incorrect. But so is Protestant Christianity. You know, it's like I can't target one side of the false schism and not target the other, right? Like Protestantism is what has given us the churchianity of today, where Catholicism was rigid and traditional. Protestantism was loosey-goosey and saying anything goes, and it developed into what we see today, where there's like, you know, homo preachers and like people like invoking all kinds of absolutely wrong doctrines from the pulpit and nobody doing anything about it. All the corrupt the churchianity, charismatic stuff where you get like the Joel Osteens and stuff, all these rich pastors. You should never be rich. You preach a message that the world despises and murders people over all around the world every day. Jesus Christ being the Son of God and King of Kings is a message that makes atheists and heathens want to kill you, and you can't be rich because you preach it. That doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to be, if you have more money, you should be fighting a bigger fight. So you should have no money because all your money's fighting a bigger fight than the average guy. It's all corrupt and just garbage, man. And anyway, I'm not trying to condemn anyone who's a Catholic. I think eventually everyone will come to the realization that true Christianity is kingdom citizenship. It is a national, it is a personal, it is an identity that is not about a religion. It's not a faith. It's not a belief system. It's a reality that you enter into when you become a kingdom citizen, when you're born again. Repent, change the way you think, enter the kingdom. That's what Nicodemus asks. He doesn't say, how can I become a Christian? He says, how can I enter this kingdom? And Jesus says, to enter this kingdom, you must be born again, right? So it's about the kingdom. Religions don't have it right. That's unfortunate. But since we've spent like the whole first hour, guys, is this going to turn into 3 parts? I don't know, because I do still have my ace in the hole. I'm trying to work my way up to it. All right, continuing from last week, the world is a physical world built on a spiritual framework. And so because of that, the physicality, the continuity of the physical realm is subject to manipulation and change. And we talked last week about a couple different theories, like the connections in the Bible to the idea of teleportation and basically manipulating the realm by moving through it without having to travel over actual distance. We talked about how that correlates with the concept of time travel, because crossing distance without time is the same as moving through time and space. And so even though it's not as simple as we want it to be, or even as cinematic as we like, we're not just looking at like, well, I want to go back to the year 1988 or whatever, whatever. I want to go back to the year 1939. If you can't pick the year and go back to it, it doesn't mean it's not time travel. It's just a form of time travel. So we talked about that. And then there are some other examples, and I wanted to get into some other things that are included in the Bible that talk about manipulation of the realm and how it might actually be possible, right, for us to do that. And in this particular example, I'm actually looking at, we have a tab here. It's going to be Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. And pulling that up is very brief. It just says, so Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief, right? So because they asked how this is possible, right? They're trying to move. Let's just pull the whole chapter. We're talking about moving mountains here. These guys tried to heal a boy who was suffering, and they were unable to do it. But Jesus got rid of the demon, and they asked him, why can't we do it? And Jesus said, because of your unbelief. For assuredly, I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. So he's explaining there's 2 parts to what's wrong here. They don't have the information, right? They don't understand that you have to do prayer and fasting, probably you guys and the victim, probably. There's something there. But he also talks about lack of belief. They don't think, they don't really mean it. They don't really believe in the kingdom. They don't think. But what he's saying is, if you just have a little bit faith as a mustard seed, if you live by this just a little bit, you can tell a mountain to go from here to there and it'll do it. Okay, so let's just say we trust Jesus. We're Christians. We believe in Christ Jesus. We believe that he is telling the truth, even if what he says is ridiculous. Find a way to quantify that in your mind. Jesus is right. You are wrong. Figure that out, okay? So he says you can move a mountain. Now, I am familiar with this, right? The ability to remotely move and manipulate matter is referred to as telekinesis. In fact, what is the actual definition of telekinesis? Let's see what the internet actually says. Oh, okay, yeah. The supposed ability to move objects at a distance by mental power or other non-physical means. Okay, so we covered that, telekinesis. So Jesus Christ says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can use telekinesis, and not just like to grab something off the kitchen counter because you don't want to like go back up the stairs, or you don't want to like go back in the house. Oh, I left my wallet in there. And you're like, whoa, like floated out the front door, and you know what I mean? We're talking about mountains, like a whole mountain. We made a whole analogy about how we have had to work through this physical world and try to move things physically with our hands, and then we invented shovels and then excavators, and how it's been a huge challenge to change the world on a physical level. And what Jesus is talking about is spiritual access, right? Administrator authority to move the physical world without physical input. This is the ability to remotely, by the mind, or I guess in this case, by the speech, move a mountain. So that's crazy. That's telekinesis. And so that is another biblical example of otherworldly powers available to mankind. Very interesting. If we move forward, I have another portion here in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 6, beginning in verse 5. It says, But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. And he cried out and said, Alas, master, for it was borrowed. So the man of God said, Where did it fall? And he showed him the place. So he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, pick it up for yourself. So he reached out his hand and took it. Now, there are different ways of reading this translation. Like there are people who assume like he threw a stick in and like grabbed the axe head and made it float, and he said, get it for yourself. I think we're past that. I think we're smarter than that to know that throwing a stick in the water doesn't just make iron float. And so we have to assume for ourselves that this guy couldn't get it out because we're talking about a significant depth, a significant current in the water. And even so, he probably couldn't even see the axe head. This is a long story. If you guys want to read it, it's 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 6. Or chapter 6, I mean. The point being is that this is another example of telekinesis, okay? This man, if we'll pull the full chapter, I think it'll give us a little more context. Basically, the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, see, now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan and let every man take a beam from there and let us make a place where we may dwell. Anyway, so he's going around and he's going with them. And this person dropped their axe head in the water. And he's upset because it's not his. And he's really worried about it. And I'm assuming, like, if you back yourself up, you go time travel back to the old world, an iron axe head in the ancient world is probably really valuable. People aren't just working with iron out of nowhere. That a blacksmith is a real job in the old world. It's not like we have factories of today pressing components. You go to Harbor Freight and get an axe for like $4, you know, a steel axe too. It's like better tool steel. Anyway, the point is this guy was in possession of a valuable and important tool that broke while he was using it. Things happen. And the axe head flew into the water and he couldn't get it back and he was freaking out. And Elisha goes over there, the man of God, and he just levitates it, dude. He levitates. We know iron doesn't float like that. Okay? Iron is not levitating without some sort of spiritual authority to do so. And it could be resonance. It could be magic. You know, we talked about magic, the root word, magnetism. It's electromagnetic fields, but what's activating that? It's not like he pulled out an electromagnetic ray gun grabber tool. You know, what is this? Is this Half-Life? Like, what are we playing? Anyway, he levitated an axe head using some form of a technique. And so yet again, we're depicting an example here in the scriptures where a guy is using, again, the ability to manipulate the physical world through the spiritual channel of telekinesis. Crazy. Remote world alteration. Now, there is one other example I have here. Let's see. This is Mark chapter 4, verse 35. There's more to this. It gives us a little backstory here. With many such parables, he spoke the word to them as they were able to hear it, but without a parable, he did not speak to them. And when they were alone, he explained all things to his disciples. Okay, boom. Okay, there's been some stuff going on. Parable of the mustard seed of all things, just told from the other perspective. Different mustard seed parable, actually. It's not about mountains. This is about how a small mustard seed becomes something big. Very relevant because we're talking about a belief that as it grows, evolves from your understanding, right? You believe in Jesus, now you're saved. But then you start to believe in kingdom and understand kingdom, and now you start getting real power and authority in your life in the world. That's a mustard seed growing into a big tree that can't be denied. CDM, let's go. Anyway, on the same day when evening had come, he said to them, let us cross over to the other side. Now, when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was. And other little boats were also with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him? Woo! Dang, son. So Jesus Christ, right? Let's envision this. We've seen this before. He's napping in the boat. and a giant crazy storm takes off, and these guys are really freaked out. And of course, this is a perfect example of like their lack of faith. The Son of God is sleeping in the boat. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And it's funny because he's resting, even as it gets really bad, to where there's even water in the boat, right? It says the boat starts to fill. It was already filling. And they go and wake him up. They're like, teacher, help. And he just immediately shuts it down. Peace, be still. Like the sea just like goes flat. Sun comes out. Yo. I mean, that freaked people out. It did. But like, it's that he's saying to them, he's like, what do you guys think is going to happen here? God's plan shall not be stopped. And the importance of that is demonstrated, but he's also just nonchalantly, telekinetically changing the weather. Like, oh no, storm front, be gone. Like, come on. That is, I think, a good honorable mention. I'm sure there's maybe other examples of times where things happened sort of remotely like that, where something was spoken into existence or changed or manipulated in some way. In this case, it's not just moving mountains or, floating an iron piece of axe head or whatever, but like literally like telling the storm to be under his control. That is incredible authority. And it's funny because he says the same thing. How is it that you have no faith? It's like he's saying to them, if you had faith, you would tell the storm to stop. Maybe that's ad lib. Maybe that's a bit of a reach, but this is a guy who said, you will do greater things than these, about like he had resurrected Lazarus by the time he said that, I think. And like, he's talking about crazy stuff. Let's just believe Jesus again and assume that if we really did have the kind of faith that we need, that we could literally move mountains, stop storms, and levitate iron. And it's very interesting that levitating iron is one of the components to this, because literally, acoustic or ambient telekinetic levitation could very well be the answer, right? We see all these impossible structures. We see, the Giza pyramids or any of the old world's infrastructure, and we think, how could you do this? Not necessarily at all, but with the technology we're expected to believe that you would have had during that time in history. So you go back in time, ancient Egyptians, how would they levitate stones? We don't even know, man. But let's just assume that since the Bible says it's possible to move entire mountains with words, who could have easily ordered all this stuff around? Jesus Christ himself, literally. This is perhaps conjecture, but he could have come back to the earth in 70 AD as he said he would, and literally just started going around and it's like, let there be town. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that complicated if you actually have the authority. You can just like reconstitute matter. Like, why not? You can control the weather. You can levitate iron. Like, you can just do whatever you want. Like, I assume alchemy would even just be like, oh, this should be gold instead. How do you get streets paved with gold? By making so much gold that it doesn't have any actual like materialism value. It's just beautiful and electrically conductive. So we like made our whole city out of it, because it's beautiful and electrically conductive. We don't, no one's chipping the gold off and trying to spend it. You know what I mean? It's world peace. We have enough corn, But anyway, the winds and waves obey Jesus, so I think we should trust his words when he says anything at all. And that includes that kind of thing. It's faith. He says we need faith. And he's right. We need to have faith, but we also need authority. And that's really, it's kind of part of my ongoing message to you guys and everyone, to realize that we are not subject to this world. The world is subject to us through Christ, through God. It's not that we can do whatever we want whenever we want. We can't just order mountains to become our fantasies and desires. Oh, mega castle for me, so that I can oppress the forces of the world. Like, it's like, it's not going to be about elevating yourself to godhood. It's about ensuring that God remains seen and understood as the hero, king, creator that he is, the absolute, everlasting, amazing God that he is. And the only way that we're going to be able to manifest that in the world is if we have proper alignment with our like purpose in the world, because God wants to do great things with you. But if you don't want to do God's great things, then you'll end up doing whatever little thing you can settle for. You spend 4 days laying on the ground underneath your car, take the entire drive shaft out, rebuild the whole thing, put all that back together. Oh, it's not like a Ford. You got to get the flex discs off. And it's like, oh, you have to take out the whole exhaust pipe. Can't do that. So you work around the exhaust. It's crazy. Horrible idea. And the best you get is a car that still goes, squeeze, you're driving down the road. Remy from Ratatouille is clinging to the bottom of the car and screaming everywhere you go. And that's what you get. That was your idea of a good time. That's what you're getting out of here. So anyway, telekinesis. And I had this example come to mind. You guys have probably seen The Matrix, right? And there's this part where this kid's got a spoon. He's like, try to bend the spoon. And Neo bends the spoon with his mind. And then ultimately it's like, there is no spoon, you know, like reality is just this construct. It's not real or whatever. And it's just an amazing thing because you basically have Neo coming to the same understanding about the fabric of the world being built on spiritual truth and physical falsehood. It's like everything physical is sand and everything spiritual is rock. And so it's like the world is what's the word? It's malleable. Right? Like it can be changed. And so he bends the spoon with his mind. And this is a man who spent all of his life living in the machine, being told by the machine who he was, and what he was capable of. And now Neo tells the machine who he is and what he's capable of and what he's here for. And that's what we are supposed to do. That's what the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that's what it does for you. No longer do you live in a world where you have to believe what they told you, what the machine told you. No, now we tell the machine what to do and what to say and how to be. That's Christian dominion, and it is coming to the earth. The people of the world are set to learn their true identity in Christ and to salvage this operation. In the same way that I have a heart to restore this car and to restore the true heart of church Christianity, believing in God, believing in Jesus, seeking the kingdom and his righteousness, picking up the cross and following, trusting God, take the risk, do the work. This is the future of Christian belief. Christianity is going to return to that simple understanding. And that is how you get the kingdom in the world. It exists in your heart, kingdom within. That's how you get it outside. So do you believe you're a Christian, or do you believe you're a member of an infinite kingdom? An infinite kingdom that will have conquest over the earth. The earth will fall under his dominion. Every knee shall bow. Every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. That is the final curtain call on this story. So knowing that's the direction that we're going is actually good, and it makes you feel a little bit better, right? Because you recognize that there is a future. If we're traveling through time, we're looking at the errors of the past, the struggles of the past, chapters that have passed in our own lives or in lifetimes long since past, what happened over the dark ages, the millennial reign, the Renaissance, you know, the reign of saints. You know, what is, you know, what is our history? I don't know. That's time. It's relevant, but that's the point. It's not about what has been or what currently is. It's about what will be. Destination kingdom. When the former things have passed away and all there is new heaven and new earth and a people who understand it and who live it. And that's what the Lord is preparing in the hearts of his people. I really believe that. That's what I'm here to see out. Whatever role I can play in helping people to know that, because it's not about being the head of a church. It's about making people the head of their own life through Christ. And that empowerment will change the world. We don't have to be subservient to machines or mountains or axe heads or churches, priests and whatever, you know, Catholicism, the Pope. The Pope's a good example. The Pope can sit and spin for all I'm concerned with. Anyway, so I've lost my place in all this. Okay. Anyway, right. True authority is what God grants in the access to the ability to move things around the way he wants them moved. Like when Moses parts the Red Sea, I mean, that's telekinesis. Even if it's like God remotely doing it through Moses, or whether it's like we're talking about energy came, stuff happened, that was remote. That was wild, man. And that's literally what we're talking about. Telekinesis and stuff like that. And that is, again, the manipulation of the realm spiritually, pulling strings to make a physical change in the place. It's crazy. So we have another concept that I wanted to just touch on briefly, which is astral projection or remote viewing. And we actually have a biblical scenario for this one too. How crazy. So there's a case in the Bible where it's in the book of Daniel, chapter 5, beginning in verse 25. And I'll tell you just a little bit of the backstory here. We've got in the previous chapter, it's like, but you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them, and you have praised the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron, wood and stone, which do not see or hear or know. And the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand were sent from him, and this writing was written. So like the hand of God appears here in the room, I'm pretty sure. It's so wild. And so God then writes an inscription on the wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. Maybe. Mini. I don't know. I don't speak angel. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene. God has numbered your kingdom. Many. And finished it. God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. I don't even see Perez on the list, but Perez, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. Anyway, that very night Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Interesting, because this is kind of like right before Daniel becomes like second in command of everything, because Darius is now king. Really cool. Anyway, the long story short is that God telepathically writes a message on the wall, and then Daniel, who has been given the gift of interpretation by God, not of his own, but by God, he reads the telekinetically translated message on the wall and explains to everybody. And so obviously, this is something you see a lot in history. God uses somebody to do something great, and then they're immediately exalted to extreme authority and influence. Literally, Moses was like not in charge of the Hebrews. God sent him in to be in charge of them, and he was their guy. Like, oh, that's the deliverer. You know what I mean? So when God chooses you, you're chosen, dude. The reality of it is that if God sends you on a mission, it's not about you convincing people. God's put you in charge. It doesn't matter what anyone says, right? So it's not so much about vying for power, but just being a good steward when you have it. Keep that in mind. 1522 freedom. Give me some of that astral projection. All right, so astral projection is kind of a tough one, right? Because astral projection is not actually the same thing as walking in the spirit. We touched a little bit on that last week when we talked about in chapter 8 of Ezekiel and how he was taken by his hair out of his body and saw between heaven and earth. And there are other cases like we talked about the revelation of Jesus Christ in which John of Patmos actually sees things that are beyond, like he's got visions, right? That is what I would call moving in the spirit. And I think that it's different than astral projection or remote viewing because it's not the choice of the viewer to receive a vision from God. So the walking in the spirit or the spiritual translation of visions is God probing you with information. You are being sent an email, not sending, but receiving. And so it's different because when you attempt to tap into the spiritual world through mechanical or spiritual means that are not authorized, you're entering by a thieves' gate. Right? So there's a parable in here, and I wish I should have pulled this up, but Jesus is talking about the shepherd and the sheep. And the sheep know their shepherd, and the shepherd brings the sheep in through the gate, and he goes in through the gate because he's supposed to be there. But it talks about thieves who don't enter by the gate. They come over the side or they come through the other way. And there's more to this than just what I'm using it as an example for, but we're talking about unlimited wisdom of the king of the earth. He's saying that if you're supposed to be there, you'll be going through the way you're supposed to go. You will be invited in. You will be walking through the gate of the shepherd's gate, because you are the shepherd. And what happens is when we try to enter into spiritual reality through means that are not authorized, we put ourselves in incredible risk. Whether you're playing with a Ouija board or you're hooked up to some kind of machine in the MK Ultra basement, you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to enter astral reality on your own account for your own means and purposes, you are in effect going a very dangerous route. And I think it's well understood that you open yourself up to all kinds of demonic oppression and even possession by trying to open that door that way. I think a lot of people can attest to that. I think I even had a time when I was younger where we played with Ouija boards, and I was immediately and for many years demonically plagued. Much of my teenage years were very difficult, and in addition to my life stress and everything, I was plagued with darkness and self-harm. And I know that is because I invited darkness into my life playing with Ouija boards when I was a kid, before I was saved, before I was absolved by Christ's blood. You can definitely put yourself in a lot of danger doing that stuff. And so astral projection is just like that. It's an illegitimate entrance into the astral plane where if God wants you to see things, he'll show you. Every time that God ever needed anyone to have a vision, he showed them. Anytime you ever needed a dream, anytime you ever needed a reality check that God needed to communicate to you in such a way, you would receive it the way he wanted you to receive it. You know, if you go seeking after God, you seek him and you'll find him. You shouldn't have to ask demons or popes or whatever for an intermediary. You can go straight to God. You can go straight to Jesus. You can say, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to know you. I want to be born again. I want to enter the kingdom. I guarantee you, to any atheist on the earth, if you actually went and prayed a fervent prayer asking God to reveal himself to you, it is a fact you will know him. So be careful what you wish for. Like if you don't like Jesus and you don't like God and you don't like kingdom and happiness, goodness, and restoration, if you don't like that stuff, I can't make you like righteousness. But just be understanding that if you go poking around in there, you're going in. And we're going to drag you in. We're going to grab you by the ankle and be like, you're in the kingdom now, boy. You know, it's going on. Anyway. So astral projection, I don't have a lot to say about it other than I do have a really cool piece that I was going to share with you guys last week, and it's from the Gateway program, Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences, and we'll read a little excerpt about this. I don't know if we'll do the whole thing. It's pretty big, but starting right at the top here, who are we? In 1958, Robert Monroe, a New York broadcasting executive, began having experiences that drastically altered his life. Unpredictably, and without willing it, Monroe found himself leaving his body to travel, his physical body, via a second body, to locales far removed from the physical and spiritual realities of his life. He was inhabiting a place unbound by time or space. With some trepidation, he wrote a book about his experiences. Doubleday published Journeys Out of the Body in 1971. Anchor brought out a second edition in 1977. Throughout the book, Monroe maintains the stance of a careful, objective reporter who often reports his own confusion in this unusual area. He relies upon personal experiences for interpretation rather than any occult, religious, or spiritual framework. Big mistake. So there's a guy who won't talk about God or Jesus. See, he doesn't believe in religion or spiritual framework. When I spent the first half of this episode saying that the world is a spiritual framework, that's the rock, and the earth is a physical framework, which is sand. And this guy is not built on a spiritual framework. So I hate to cut in like that, but it's like, if you're having weird crap happen to you and you're not a Christian, duh. Anyway, in the 1960s, Monroe became interested in the possible connection between nonverbal audio patterns and brainwave rhythms. From his long experience with sound, he advanced from rotating disc circuit breakers to sophisticated custom-built signal generators and the production of tape recordings in which he has many as 16 patterns of sound mixed together on stereo channels. Drawing upon his discoveries and the work of others, he employs a system of binaural beats to create a frequency balancing response. I don't know if that's what it says. I can't read it. The brainwave rhythms. The FFR, it's obviously not balancing response. Anyway, it not only gives some control over the brainwave permission of each hemisphere, it also promotes brainwave synchronization between the two hemispheres. In May 1975, Monroe received a generic patent for this method. In 1971, the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences was funded and located in the foothills of the Blue Ridge in Virginia. After he shared his findings with others pursuing the same interests, an advisory board representing several major scientific disciplines formed around the institute. The institute then developed a highly experimental program for the training of consciousness itself. We are instructing and training individuals in the art of switching perceptual modes, the art of becoming more conscious of one's particular inner resources, inner abilities, and most of all, one's inner guidance. Yeah, that sounds pretty new age to me. I should have read it like a hippie. One more. We're instructing and training individuals in the art of the art of becoming more conscious of one's particular inner resources, man. Inner abilities, and most of all, one's inner guidance. Anyway, from Samadhi and Satori to the vision quest and the cloud of unknowing, cultures in all times and all places have harbored a few individuals who reached and practiced profound levels of self-exploration. Most of these individuals practiced within a mythology and epistemological groundwork by which they could interpret and give meaning to their experiences. Present-day Western epistemology, I just learned that word, just recovering from an entrancing flirtation with materialism, provides little in the way of a ladder toward other perceptual modes. What investigation has been done within our current theory of knowledge is centered on the physiology of the brain and on the possible correlation between the brain's physical state and the subjective state of the mind. First, brainwave profiles, and then lateral brain specialization and hemispheric synchronization have offered potential tools for the description of the subjective state and the mind's operational function. Anyway, this thing goes on for about 4 pages, and what they're talking about is research into the idea of accessing the spiritual world. But as I mentioned before, this is effectively remote viewing or astral projection. And of course, there's probably some people who know more about it than me who say, no, it's not, because astral projection requires you to be like laying on a hospital bed. And I'm not really focusing on that as much as I'm just looking at this is a way that people have access to spiritual realms without going the proper channels. And of course, more than one of the paragraphs in this write-up kind of show that they're looking at this from a secular worldview, which is to say they're not leaning on God for understanding or for guidance. They're looking at one's inner guidance. And I can tell you right now that the inner guidance has destroyed Western civilization. So let's not do too much of that. I know that you guys are probably dying to read this, so I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat for you guys real quick, because I know. Go ahead and nab it up now. Feel free to save that and check that out later, guys, because I feel like that's a pretty good read. There's some good stuff in there that just kind of expands more on their angle that they're taking with that. Picking up then where we left off, there's another example that I can think of kind of breaking the fabric of reality that you hear about a lot. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but near-death experiences, right? There are many, many, many people that tell, whether they had a Christian or a non-Christian theological background, of a near-death experience. You know, they got sick or almost died or a car accident, whatever. The cause of near-death is not as important as the stories they tell of the things they saw when they were outside of their body. And some of the more compelling experiences, I think, are the ones that talk about visions of heaven and the afterlife. And there are so many people that talk about how they actually saw God. They saw Jesus. They met Jesus. They saw family members. They saw heaven. They saw pets. So many of these stories exist as though people literally saw into the afterlife through the window as they were near death. And for whatever reason, most of the stories contain a sort of, a familiar element where people are basically told by God, you need to go back. It's not time yet. Like, we'll be together again soon, but you have more things to do in the world. And one of the most prolific ones, I'll tell you, dude, because we always get this idea about what our life is supposed to be. We get these delusions about how significant we are, and it's always a balancing act as a Christian to give yourself credit and believe that you're sacred, special, fearfully, wonderfully made. Love yourself. Know that Jesus loved you and died for you. Like, remember that. But don't get a big head, too. Like, how do you stay small and humble? And there's a story that's always stuck with me. This old lady, she had a near-death experience in her old age, and she said that she saw Jesus, and she was ashamed because she felt like she didn't do anything good for him. Like she was a Christian, but she's like, I didn't go do any missionary work, and I didn't like help build the church. And she felt ashamed before him. And he said to her that he was happy that she loved her children. That's what she said that he said. That he was just, because what he gave her was that family, you know what I mean? Whew, that's emotional shit, man. That gets to me. Because Jesus isn't looking at what you did wrong. He's looking at what you did right. God doesn't see your failures. You're covered by the blood of Christ. And Jesus said to this lady, it's like, don't feel bad that you did great. You loved your children. He gave her those kids to love, and she loved them to the best of her ability. That's what God wants from us, to just do what he says. You know what I mean? We don't have to change the world or become a legend, have a giant mega church. Sometimes it's a quiet life. You know, maybe you don't reach anybody, and maybe you don't even realize that you did. And that's just a really powerful story. But anyway, those near-death experiences break into yet another category where you're seeing something and we don't know whether it was their choice or whether it was God's intermission or whether they just arrived at the gate and God said, not yet. Get back in there. I've still got another round for you to do. And that is an incredible experience, because just like Jesus was saying in the boat, why are you guys afraid? If Jesus wants you home, he'll take you. And if he wants you to live, you will survive the impossible. You cannot die unless he says so. And when you do, you get to enter the kingdom. You get to really go. Christianity should be breaking the bounds. We should be afraid of nothing. You know, and I know it's easier said than done, but these are the realities. The world is not what we see it as. It's not the governments, the nations, the armies, the machines, the economy, the culture, the religion. All of that stuff is sand. The spiritual truth remains. It's the foundation and the framework of everything that's built on top of it. And that's who we're supposed to be. That's our focus. And so when we acknowledge that, it gives us a lot of boldness. And that is what we need to understand this fight that we're in for reality, what really is real and true. We're not going to be able to figure that out by just going our own way, trying to do lab experiments to merge the hemispheres. Like, I just don't know if that's going to cut it, man. Jesus didn't say anything about moving mountains by merging the hemispheres. I'm just saying. So anyway, you know, I think near-death experiences are pretty interesting because they basically speak to the reality that we're a spirit from outside the world being sent into the world. And so even though we're living in a physical body that is subject to the sands of time, isn't it funny that time and sand are so correlated with one another? You know, you sleep through the night, you wake up, the Sandman has deposited the sand in your eyes. Like, what a strange bit of mythos, right? And we're just talking about how, oh, the spiritual world is the rock, and the world, the temporal world, is dust, it's sand. And when you sleep at night, you move through it, and you get sand in your eyes. And the whole thing is just wild, man. But yeah, so we realize we're not from here. We're a timeless spirit inside of a timed body, timed release. It's a shell. And it doesn't last forever. Some last longer than others, you know, in various ways. Some people's back doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? Lucky you. Anyway, so it's not necessarily time travel. But if you think your soul is this consciousness that's timeless, that God created and knows, before the foundations of the world, before you were formed in your mother's womb, he knew you. He knew the spark that is you, your mind, your will, your emotions. That's your soul. The soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. He knew you. He knew who you were. And then he sent you into the world in just the specific time that you entered. In a way, it's kind of like time travel, even though you didn't start in time, leave time, go back, as far as I know. But God was looking at the timeline and was like, you guys would be good right here to drink Kool-Aid on Wednesday night. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily time travel, but it's about being outside of time until the time is right. The Lord's timing. Amazing. And then when you combine that with the understanding that angels are not ever physical beings, right? They're heavenly beings, and they manifest in the physical world, right? God sends messengers. The messengers go to Sodom and Gomorrah. There are a couple of angels appearing as men. You know, angels appear as men all the time, including the Watchers. coming down to the earth to take daughters of man and produce these Nephilim. So we're talking about entities that are not from the realm of earth. They're not made of sand like our bodies, like this place. They're made of stone. And these things are like timeless, ancient, but also like, you know, like again, they have no time. And so when we encounter angels, fallen angels or righteous angels, we're encountering beings that are not bound by the same rules that we are. And I think it's possible that angels themselves can travel through time. It seems reasonable enough to think that because they're not from the physical world, they're not bound by the physical world. And it gives a whole new understanding to the complexity of this insane spiritual war, because if angels can come and go from the material world, that means they can be here at any time in history. And that means fallen ones can do the same thing, right? And so the question then becomes, how would we possibly make it this far if it weren't for God's constant effort to preserve us and protect us from these forces, right? The big threat, fallen angels can basically log into the server whenever they want, appear wherever they want, appear as basically whatever they want to manipulate your mind, to confuse you. Appearing as a spirit of light, it tells us to worry about that. But at the same time, we need to know that God's angels, the loyal angels of the kingdom, can do all those same things. And at the end of the day, God reserves the right to make and destroy anything he's ever created. So ultimately, there's a fate for everyone joining the devil in the lake of fire and all his ilk and everything. So there is a point when it does end. But it's almost like time travel, right? Fallen angels manifesting into the realm, and then perhaps giving the appearance of being timeless, right? Like we talk all the time about the idea of like what, celebrity doppelgangers. Like, check this out. You see examples like this, and you wonder, like, are these people, what's going on here? Is this frozen? Well, you gotta love it. Oh, okay, it was frozen. Okay, and you see this stuff, and we always just, as 101 conspiracy theorists, we're like, oh yeah, you know, these guys are just, they're related to famous people from like times since past, or, you know, oh, it's a clone. You know, they recloned him and then brought him back out again. Like, what a unique looking person. And like, look at how unique this person looks. And it's like, oh, but there was just another one from the 1800s or 1930 or whatever this is, 1919 or whatever year this is. It's probably not that old. But the point is that like, this is not an accident, especially when these are not the perfect examples, but like there's one where it like shows Mark Zuckerberg and it's like, oh, he's the king of France or something. You know what I mean? Like when you're nobody important. I think this is like a princess of Egypt or something, of Macedon or something. It was someone important. And it's just interesting, right? How you have these figures, especially in the modern age, that are hailed as heroes and lead. Look at this one's classic. And you guys have seen this. I'm not showing you something you haven't seen, but I'm just giving you guys an example to show really what I'm talking about, which is that these people also seem to be somewhat timeless. And it's very interesting that they're timeless, because what do we call famous and powerful people? Stars. In fact, we have the whole Hollywood Walk of Fame thing. We have the whole, you know, the sidewalk is lined with the stars. We have another one here, like, sharing some of the same pictures we've seen, but Keanu Reeves, that's a good one. Oh, there we go, yeah. Philip the Fourth. So what? He's a king in another timeline, and in this timeline, he's the head of a $500 billion company or whatever. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. I got some Facebook stuff to talk about. But again, this stuff has for so long been complicated for us, because we've been like, well, how do you look like that? And that's a chick, Judy. Sorry, some of these are just hilarious. The point is that if there's any truth to these doppelgangers, it's not that they're probably a clone or some kind of a vampire, maybe. But what's even more likely is that they're probably just the same person. It's the same. Oh man, that one's rough. And he's involved in motorsports. Oh, he's a soccer player, but he's sponsored by Mercedes-Benz. Whoa, what is that logo too on his shirt? That's a little weird looking. But anyway, I just think it's possible, spitballing here since we're on the cutting edge, I guess you could say. Is it possible that these guys are just ancient? They've just been around the whole time, that they're timeless, and just some food for thought. With that being said, maybe they really are fallen angels after all. Maybe they really are the fallen stars of the Walk of Fame. And we know Hollywood stands as one of the most horrific influences. We were just talking about this the other day. I saw Rob Schneider doing some really funny stand-up comedy, and I thought to myself, he didn't really ever go down the woke train. Like, he was always kind of a traditionalist kind of guy, and it's like, you have to think everything's compartmentalized. It's not like everybody's fully involved in everything they're doing, but, it's you compromised or you got a lot of money or whatever. And to see Rob Schneider kind of like not towing the line was kind of cool, but it just reminded me that they play both sides of the field. Now the pendulum's swinging around, and Rob Schneider, who he wasn't a big woke joker, but now he's doing quite well because everybody's like, oh yeah, I remember Rob. He's so funny. Yeah, at least he's not woke. Let's go see him this weekend in Vegas. You know what I mean? It's like they can promise you today you'll be the pariah, but don't worry. When we then swing the pendulum the other way, you'll be seen as a saint. And it'll just be like all these folks of old. Like, okay, during this generation, you get to be this whatever feudal lord that nobody likes. But don't worry, in the next century, we'll make you a famous hero on the old, the whatever Game of Thrones or whatever. It's like they launched so many people's career in this generation using that show. Like they knew they would, so everything they do is orchestrated. And so it's like they can promise their people, in this generation, you can be the bad guy. Next generation, Dr. Fauci will probably be like some timeless chef that everybody loves, It'll be like, he's cooking up food with Fauci. And it was like, we're having the finest dinners. And he's like, oh, let me tell you all about it. It's an absolutely amazing dinner. I'm working on it right now. It's going to be a pasta. It's going to be pasta gefilte fish. I don't know if I haven't seen Fauci in a while. Last I saw, he was like trying to destroy the world, but then Trump pardoned him for it. So things are not, it's more that, you tell the guy in 2015 that all this happened. Did you know Donald Trump will become president? And then they'll try to destroy the world with this crazy scamdemic. And then the main guy behind it is going to get pardoned by the president. But the president was part of it. Trump was in on it too, because he was like, oh yeah, Operation Warp Speed, 666 Black Saturn Cube logo. Yet something we've covered many times, but it's worth bringing back up again. Anyway, these guys, it's like I said, it's like I've described time as being linear, and people don't like that I say that, but I try to think of the world as a storybook because there's beginning, middle, and end. And if you saw it as a vision or it happened in the past, it's done. What is done. And even the things that will be are done, in a sense that you really can't change what God sees the end. The outcome is the outcome. No matter what you think about it, it happens. And God knows that outcome. And so you really can't change what happens, in the sense that you can only fulfill that which is already known in the eyes of God. And that's kind of an incredible thing to think about, not just because it's like, what are you supposed to do about that, but also like if you can't screw it up, does that mean just sin so that grace may abound? Or should we take on a new understanding that like, everything we do has consequences? It's like Maximus in the Gladiator movie. It's like what we do in life echoes in eternity. He said that, and I think that's true. So we have to think about that, right? It's like salvation is freely given, but reward is based on works. Keep that in mind. So because I think the world is linear, let me throw something in your cyclical time theory. Let me throw a wrench in that thing. Energy is never lost; it's only ever transferred. And so it doesn't go anywhere. And that's the reason why I think the timeline is linear. Maybe not solely, but I think that what you have is God speaks the world into existence, and what you can imagine is like you just started the vinyl record, and it starts going. And even though it's going in a circle, I know it's kind of counterintuitive to my point, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, let's say maybe it's a cassette tape The tape's scrolling by, one reel turns into another, or hey, you can just digitize this thing. Press play on the MP3. It starts, it plays, it ends. And all the data is encompassed in that, 2 minutes and 34 seconds, or 4 minutes and 14 seconds, or whatever it is. The duration has all the binary, all the bit, everything that is that audio, that is that song. And so when God spoke the world into existence, he spoke the beginning, middle, and end of the whole story all at once. The wavelength that is the eternity, that is the universe, that is time and space as we know it, was all created at once. God saw the end as soon as he made the beginning. And so because of that, we have to understand that that energy within there is just moving from one place to another throughout the timeline. Everything, human souls, gasoline, electricity, thermal energy, heat, cold, whatever it is, kinesis, physical movement, all of that stuff is just it's God's energy moving and manipulating and changing shape in the world as God brings the world from where it was to where it will be, no matter what we say about it. And that's the reality. The world is this wavelength. It's a light, it's a sound, it's a combination of energy manifesting in different ways. We've talked about this before. The world is like a field, like a system of vibration, right? Like Tesla says, think of the world in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, and consider that the energy is of God, the frequency is his tonality, and the vibration is the reverberation of his voice. As the world is spoken and every fabric of it is decided, everything is measured. And it's just such an incredible thing to think about, that energy is never lost, it's only transferred. And then to think about the potential, right? That you could take this energy, you could manifest a hold of it. You could grab a hold of that, like they talk about ether power and we talk about free energy. Imagine you could get a hold of that energy and you could tune it to the right frequency, and then you could apply it to something. Manifesting, like bringing that fractal thing to reality. Not just saying to a mountain, move from here to there, but move and become a palace. That's a real concept to think about. We're not just telling the dirt to move, we're telling it to change shape. We're telling like lead to become gold. We're talking about transfiguration of the realm. And in reality, that's what happens to everybody. You know, you come to the faith in Christ and you become a person on a journey. And then when you die, you really become the true you. You become the transfigured child of light that you were really supposed to be before all this iniquity, before the timeline, before the sand that we're all swimming around in, right? The sea of sand that is this sliding and changing and permeable realm. And so I like to think about this, and people have said this in the past, and I totally resonate with it. There's I've actually heard people say this recently, but I'll say it again. The phrase, architecture is music frozen in time. The little overview says that it's a poetic metaphor often attributed to Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, that compares the harmony, rhythm, and balance in architecture to the elements of music. Both are seen as art forms that create an emotional and aesthetic experience through their structured arrangements of components. Just as musical notes form a composition, the arrangements of a building's lines, curves, materials, and spaces can be seen as frozen into a tangible, static form. That is Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I don't know how to say that, dude. Goethe? Goat. This guy was a German polymath who's widely regarded as the most influential writer in the German language. His work has had a wide-ranging influence on literary, political, and philosophical thought in the Western world from the 18th century to the present. Very interesting time of birth, being born right around what many people consider to be the time of the release of Satan, 1776 perhaps. And having an influence on that time, he says, wow, as he looks around at the old world buildings sitting around him, and he says, wow, these things are so beautiful. This is like music frozen in time. What an incredible concept to think about. And then so when we look, here's an excellent example of music frozen in time. And what's so amazing about this is we have actual examples here. We have A0 and A0 sharp, D1. I mean, like you can literally see how the somatic patterns of these windows correlate to the energy signals of these musical notes. So when he says architecture is music frozen in time, he's not joking. These are actual notes of resonant frequency, and they're preserved in these buildings in stone and metalwork. And, a lot of people say that much of these spaces probably didn't have glass in them, that the glass was likely placed later to create an artistic representation of what was actually more like a speaker or an amplifier, where the resonant frequency was selected for a reason, for whatever purpose that eminence would have, that frequency would project across the land and create a particular tonality, that would be the purpose for creating structures that looked like this, so that they would reverberate those frequencies in particular. Anyway, it's just such an amazing thing to think about. And of course, we talked a little bit about Project Looking Glass in the last episode, and I have a write-up that is, it's worth checking into and reading more about. In fact, I'll give you guys the link to it. We touched on it a little bit last week, but this is the Paradigm Shift article. I definitely save that to your browser, guys, and check that out later, because it's just a very interesting read, and it talks more about the concept of the Project Looking Glass and where the secrets of it come from and what kind of information they have. And, there's more that I didn't read in this article about how they actually built a time machine and it was in a car, and there's a picture of it on the internet. It's really crazy. If I can ever find that stuff again, this is more of the glory days of conspiracy theories where, they literally memory hold everything. They scrubbed the internet and replaced it with, a broken, dead internet version that's you can't find anything anymore. It's all curated and weird. And so if I ever see that, or if you guys ever see that, please find a way to send me that, because that picture of the car, there's 2 photos of it, and it has black metal boxes with yellow caution stripes on it, and it's built into the infrastructure of the car, and they said it was. And the reason it's so significant, though, is because that's literally the plot of Back to the Future. I'm it's escaping me right now because I remember the data, but I forget the correlation. The whole idea of the time machine being in the car was in that movie, not because it was funny, because it's real. That's why it's so crazy. Now, I don't think it's because they were really time traveling. I just think they built it into a car so that they could move. You might have had to be moving. That whole 88 mile an hour thing might be real. And that's how you can open the portal to see. Some guy in the passenger seat's taking notes. The guy driving's not looking through the portal. I think they even said it just requires movement and access to technology. And I think that maybe at the time that was the most practical way to do it. Because if you put it in a helicopter, then it costs a lot of money every time you try to fly it. If you put it in a plane, it costs a lot of money every time you try to move it. You can't go 88 miles an hour steadily in a helicopter. Maybe it'd be kind of hard. Any wind resistance changes the speed. It's very easy to go a pretty level speed. You get a large stretch of highway, desert, flat land. You could just ride 88 miles an hour, and you could do 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. You drive down to Vegas. You can be on the highway for 3-4 hours and not stop. Just perfectly flat, straight. 88 the whole way. Imagine all the windowing you could do through the looking glass. Incredible concept. Of course, unproven, just like most of the crazy stuff on here. And I'm going to say some final things to nuke the channel before we go. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. We still got a little bit of time left, and I'm not quite there yet. We'll build it up. I think I've got time. 15 minutes. Let's do this. Okay. So the looking glass. One final point about the looking glass. And Wendy actually said this, and I really liked it. The firmament of the dome of the earth is the ultimate looking glass, wherein God stares down into the earth. And like I said in last week's episode, he sees everything. His omnipotence is the ability to travel through time at his leisure, to view any moment in the past, the present, the future, that to us is all about whether it's before or behind, but to God, it's all at once. To God, it is all finished, just at the same time as it's created. It's a story that he wrote. We're over here reading the book, and we don't know what's on the next page or in the next chapter, and we can hope for it, we can pray for it, and sometimes God gives a vision or a dream to someone about what's next. Next up on the great human story, whoa, this mystery the coming of the New Jerusalem. That's a pretty cool, I don't know what you'd call it, a preview for what's to come. But we don't know the end of the story like the guy who wrote it. So we're viewing it through our lens, but God views it through the ultimate looking glass, eternity, the true world. We see this world that we live on physical, sandy, permeable, and we think that's reality, just like Neo believed the Matrix was reality. But the actuality of it all was that none of it was real. We had allowed ourselves to be taught by the machine what reality was. And even those of us here today are just like Neo. We believed in nonsense that the machine taught us about who we are, about where we are in the universe, about our purpose and where we go when we die and all that crazy stuff. And we broke the machine and we broke out and God helped us. God made that possible for sure. And then now we look back and it's like, just like we said, right? That's what authority is. Now we tell the machine what it is. When I see crap like a rocket taking off slowly, I'm like, that's so dumb. I wish I had thought sooner about how fast rockets actually move. You can't, if it doesn't accelerate immediately, none of the aerodynamic principles of the rocket even work. It doesn't slowly like, what's the dumbest thing ever? How do we ever fall for that? Or like on Ceiling Fan Mans where it's like an inflatable water-filled one and it like blows open and water flies out and it like sags over and it's like, oh, sure. And all those Challenger astronauts who all just happen to have like a twin who works at a university now with the same name. Yeah, they're all dead, but you can just find them. They just exist still. That's wild, man. Same with the kids from the old Sandy schoolyard. We'll call it that. They were still around too, apparently. The NFL halftime show. It's crazy. All right, this is going to be our final piece here. Can I make this happen? We'll go a little longer if we have to. I got to get this out here. So I'm sure you guys have noticed in the last couple of weeks or months, I guess, that a bunch of old YouTube channels have returned to the platform. And they're not old. Like I said, some of these really old ones have just never come back. But some of the channels that got kind of terminated during the 2020 era for what was perceived to be misinformation. And according to the research, that's basically what happened. They were trying to cover up for the spread of information that was deemed misinformation regarding COVID. And so they cracked down and deleted a bunch of channels. Even during, 6 months or a year ago, I got actually a strike on my channel because I said stuff about people like getting injected and then spinning around. And that there was these videos. I didn't say it was real. There were these videos on the internet that people claimed to show people who had received an inoculation of sorts, who then witnessed some kind of thing in the sky or near them. And they're like, what is that? Whoa! And then they spun around and died as bugs. That's how I described it. And that got me a strike to say it, but I just say it again because it's so dumb. Well, you have to word it just right. Like, there was a video on the internet that somebody said was about something, and it purported to show this, but I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so there's some crazy technology they put out back then, and that's still on the books today, still working today. And I can explain a little bit how it works. You guys know PDF, the format of it's like photos of documents. They're not actually a document that you edit unless you have the right program to edit it, but it's really like a picture of a document, and it's an easy way to compress files and send them. And you can do things like you can sign them, you can print them. It's very common business practice now to move things around in PDF. And I remember over the years, PDFs used to be really dumb, and you couldn't edit them or read the text. You couldn't copy, highlight, and pull the text. You could just, it was like having a piece of paper, but at least it came over an email instead of a fax machine. And so it was better in that way. But over the course of time, they developed much better technology for the PDF reader programs, and they developed the ability to not only read the text off of the page, even though it's an image, but you could actually edit the image and put text in there as though it was embedding it into the file. As if you could take a photo of a document on your desk, go back in time and change the document, and your photo changes. In a way, it's almost like time travel, right? But anyway, what's happening here is that it's using technology that's able to scrub the pixels of the image and find text and make correlations between known font types and texts and languages and then the actual document itself and see that correlation. And that stuff is accurate today. You could upload the PDF to the TurboTax and it just takes all the info. It just knows. This box here represents a certain number. It's in a certain font. It says a certain amount. It pulls it. You double check, right? You don't just press send. Oh yeah. Oh, my tax return's gonna be $100,000 this year. Let's go. I'd be careful with that one. But right. The PDF viewers are smart. And during the high time of the big COVID thing going on, Facebook actually employed some of this technology. And I have a little screenshot on it that the artificial intelligence gives us a little summary of it. But it says, Facebook, now Meta, uses artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning to detect and remove COVID-19 misinformation, including content within images. But the term photo reading software is not a standard industry term and is likely a misinterpretation of their technology. I asked, do they use photo reading technology? Which is what it is. They're just saying they don't like that term. But that's what it is. It's a misinterpretation of the technology. It doesn't read photos. Meta invests heavily in AI systems to identify content that violates its policies, including text, images, and videos. The AI is trained to recognize patterns in content previously flagged by fact checkers. The AI technology can analyze images. Wait, so it can read photos? And identify objects and text within them using optical character recognition and similar tech, which is a form of computer vision, not photo reading. Well, actually, this helps catch misinformation embedded in memes or photos, even when the accompanying text has been altered to evade detection. So in other words, their AI has gotten smart to get to the bottom of your memes about 1488 and how 109 countries and stuff. It knows now. You try to be like, Heinz, 109 varieties. It's like Heinz, Heinz tomato ketchup, 109 varieties. And like you post that and it knows and it bans you because it knew it was an anti-Semitic ketchup post. Okay? You don't get to do that. The AI works in concert with a global network of over 70 independent fact-checking organizations. Once a piece of information is identified by fact-checkers, Meta uses AI to find and label or remove millions of duplicate posts. Okay. Just understand that this exists, right? The computer, the AI now can see an image, any image, whether it's a meme or a PDF document. It can look at a video. It can look at a meme about ketchup. It can determine your anti-Semitic nature just by seeing the profile photo that you posted where your arm was sticking out at a certain angle. It's gotten bad. Okay? And just understand that's how it works. And so remember, we've always said this. Whatever they have released to the general public it's archaic compared to what they have in secret available. And so this takes me to one of my final points of manipulation of the realm, the permeability of the realm. And this is a term, since we talked about teleportation and telekinesis, I have another one for you. It's called telecommunication. And you guys would know that's cell phones, Wi-Fi, data networks, right? 5G. Of all things. That's the most current one. And basically, telecommunication is telepathy through technology. It's the ability to wirelessly transmit data, thoughts, ideas, pictures, whatever, through some sort of an ambient network remotely from where you are to some sort of receiving node. Telecommunications are technological telepathy. Okay. And we live in a giant web of telecommunications. In fact, over the last decade, they've installed some of the most significant telecommunications infrastructure in all of history. A huge rollout in the mid-2010s and up until especially recently, 2020 and so on, which ties into some stuff I'm not supposed to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. The long story short is that massive networks of radio frequency wave generators are actually bad for human health. Believe it or not. It turns out that being constantly inundated with waves of radiation may actually be bad for your health and sanity. Imagine that. And so we as conspiracy people, as truthers, whatever you want to call yourself, a realist, a critical thinker, a Kool-Aid drinking cultist, whatever you want to be called, just know that we have been following that train for a long time. Of course, there's this brand called Haven. They sell beanies, RF blocking beanies, sweaters. They sell underwear that like protect your manhood. They're just like, the assumption is your nuts are being beamed with radiation right now, bro. How are you gonna ever have any children? And it's funny because we have this whole, birth rate decline and there's no new kids, no one's having kids. And it's like, well, not only are we socially and culturally screwed, your balls have been microwaved. It's like, no wonder. But no one denies it's happening. Everyone says, oh, we're under a giant wave of inundation, And it's like we said before, the cathedrals, the buildings of old, those things were designed to amplify a good kind of resonance. And I imagine during the millennial reign, people were living in some real harmony and everything was good and healthy, and they were being inundated with good waves that helped them have high spirits and good health and hopefully like cellular regeneration. Imagine that. It's so cool to think about. But we live now in a fallen kingdom, and they're doing the opposite of that. They're inundating us with poisonous, cancerous waves, and at least that's the conspiracy theory of it all. And they're doing that with the 5G network that they've recently rolled out, and that is probably the most widespread adaptation of this. And of course, I just don't have time. I have 3 minutes, and maybe that's the point. Maybe this leaves us for one, because this is a big one. I'm gonna drop something on you guys that's so crazy that it's actually taken me 2 episodes to get ready to drop it on you. Just keep an eye on these towers, these old 5G towers. As you can see, there's just something happening here that I just really can't. I got to give you guys a whole other level. We're going to have to get to a whole nother level to be able to break this one, because this will be probably the only episode that actually nukes the channel. I'm not talking about right now, but to cross the border into this. For lack of a better term, to jump the border into this one. Anyway, I thought I'd make it, but I won't. I won't make it. So just keep in mind, right? We are living under a massive network of inundation from television. There's another tele right there. Remote vision. We should have brought that up, right? Remote viewing, TV. You're remotely viewing something. Lots of tele tonight. Telekinesis, telecommunications, telepathy, telephone. Anyway, the world is a physical construct built on a spiritual foundation. And when the old order of things has passed away, all that will be left is the true reality of the world. Who you are, where you came from, where you're going, what your purpose is, will be. And all of that stuff is going to be revealed, not just for us in this time, but for all eternity. The world will know the truth. What's been done in the dark will be brought to light. And the promise we have is for a kingdom that is to come. And so we have hope, and we continue to have a good spirit, because we know that we are only going when God says so, and we are only going where he says so. So let's have a good attitude about it. Let's be willing. Let's push forward for those things. Trust God. Take the risk. Do the work. And in so doing, God can reveal to us all kinds of things that we need to know about ourselves, about each other, about our purpose. And again, I got one more crazy, like just total atom bomb. I was going to drop it last week, but I couldn't. There's too much I needed to share with you guys. Okay. It would probably help if I didn't ramble about other ADD-related stuff at the start of the show. But the point is, we do things a certain way around here. We keep it chill. That's how it is, on the cutting edge. All right, guys. That's pretty much it, right? You have been watching the Main Character Podcast, Level 72, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I am Con Man, and thank you for being here. We will be back next week to drop the ultimate bombshell of insane conspiracy conjecture based on all the things you're not supposed to talk about on YouTube, and we'll be back to refresh all that next week for Level 73. Yeah. All right, you guys, take it easy. Have a great night, and we will see you all next week for the A-bomb. All right, see you then. Have a good one, guys.
And I'm your man, you know I tell it like it is. I hold the secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my profession. I'm recklessly disrespecting what you expect and investing in my discretion, teaching the lessons, impressions to keep you guessing what I do next, man.
Now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. He will go forth to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the final battle, an army whose number is as the sand of the sea.
It's amazing the affirmations that come my way when I fake it until I make it. The truth is waiting, complacent organizations. They say I'm racist, they hate and they making payments on my vacation. I'm the man, I'm the king, I'm rejecting what you think. Rearranging your mentality, got some Kool-Aid you can drink. It's a scam, it's a plan, it's a con, and I'm your man. You know I tell it like it is. I hold the
secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my